Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming back to the podcast. Today's special guest is a local friend of mine, Captain David Dillman. David, good to have you.
Good to have you. Good to finally I know we've talked a lot, but we've never met each other. So
Yeah,
so this is like the first time really to meet each other. I mean, it's really sounds weird, right? In
yeah,
person.
yeah,
So, but we're not actually in person, but we are in person.
yeah. Are you in Galveston right now?
I'm in Galveston.
So you're
And
about,
praise God we got some rain today.
so we're about
So
25 miles apart, 20 miles or so
correct,
apart. Yeah, yeah,
correct.
very good. Yeah. Okay, David. Well, man, where do I start? I mean, strong
Tell
man
me.
of faith, good expert fisherman, columnist. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with your affinity for the outdoors. What got you started in the
Wow,
outdoors?
because I was too dumb to do anything else. So no, actually, I was born in Houston, and at the age of about 10, I guess 9, my parents bought a river house because it was on the Colorado River
Okay.
in Matagorda. So that's where I started to. That's where I cut my teeth as far as learning how to fish, right? And I mean, I always fished off and on, but when they had that house in Matagorda, that's really when it all started. And then, of course, what happens, junior high, high school, not all great things happen. In high school, I still fished some, but once I got out of high school, I got back into it, and I spent a lot of time fishing, in Galveston Bay and on the beachfront and all that kind of stuff. And so, eventually, I met a friend of mine who was a fishing guide back then, Captain Mike Williams, and it was just one of those deals where he just said, "Hey," I was working for the YMCA full time. I was a child care director, and he's like, "Man, you need just to go ahead and become a fishing guide," right? Because he had been. He was a butcher, and then he turned fishing guide, and he goes, "You just need to quit your job and just become a full time fishing guide." And
Mhm.
I'm thinking to myself, babysit kids, babysit adults, it's about the same thing. And so that's what I did. So in 1990, December of 1990, I resigned from the YMCA after 9 years and became a fishing guide.
So talk
And
about that leap of faith, going from a steady job, career-minded
man,
position to
so Richard, so I wasn't saved. I mean, I worked for the YMCA, and I knew of God, but I didn't know of God. But I
Mhm.
didn't know God. You with me? I knew of Jesus, but I didn't know Jesus.
Mhm.
And so I got saved in 2018 is
Okay.
when I got saved. So it's only been a relatively, 5 years. But he revealed himself to me prior to being saved. I mean, like he absolutely showed me, and I was like kind of like a Peter, and he was like, "Hey, stupid, I'm right here. Hello, hello," And eventually, it just so happened it came about through a lot of prayers of my wife now, who we were just dating. She was my girlfriend, and then an associate Baptist pastor who had been fishing with me for over 25 years and who always, always came on the boat, always, talked about God with me. And through a lot of prayers of his, that it all came to be. And it came to be through the death of my father, having stage 4 lung cancer. So in 2018 of January 2018, my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And we did not have a good relationship. Look, a little background on me.
Okay.
Seventh grade, I started smoking weed. Eighth grade, I started popping pills. Ninth grade, I was doing everything. I went to Bel Air High School. When I got to 10th grade, I was full blown into the drug scene. Sold a bunch of weed, sold cocaine, sold crystal meth. I mean, all of it, right? So I was pretty much, living a life, working through all this, right?
Mm.
Even back in when I was at the YMCA, still doing what I was doing, but I was working. So never got popped, never got caught, never went to jail, and um, and that's only by the grace of God, right? Because God said, "I have better things for you."
Mhm.
And so little did I know all this, right? But when my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in January, our relationship started to mend. I started spending more time with him. And then right around, Easter of 2018, he was trying to go through chemo, and the chemo didn't work. He ended up in ICU for 7 days, intubated or whatever, the tube down his throat,
Hmm.
feeding him, keeping him alive, basically on life support, even though he didn't have a DNR, because he wanted a procedure done called a bronchoscope. And when they put the scope down in his throat, they couldn't pull out the tube.
Oh.
So it was one of those situations where the doctor couldn't pull the tube out because it would have killed him. But right then and there, he went directly when they got the tube out, and this doctor and I became friends. Right, really great guy. And when he got the tube out, he went right into hospice. And the 4 days in Houston hospice, I was with him those 4 days. And I came back to Galveston for Easter sunrise service on the beach with my then girlfriend. We weren't married yet, but she was saved years before me, right? So she was a Christian. So we did sunrise service on the beach, and then sunrise service they gave me a little pin. They handed out little pins, the
Hmm.
house and the three crosses in the Bible verse John 3:16. And so the last day that he was in hospice, my sister showed up in the morning, and the nurse came in and said, "Look, it's not going to be, it's not going to be long." And I'm like, "Okay." And so my dad was out, like on fentanyl, whatever they were giving him, right? I mean, he was completely knocked out. So I told my sister, I said, "Hey, I've got to take a shower," because I hadn't had a shower in like 4 days per se, right? I was there with him. I spent the night with him. I never went home. And so right before I went to jump in the shower, I took that pin and I pinned that pin on his gown. And and I as I got out of the shower and started cleaning up my stuff, my back was turned to him, and he motioned. My sister goes, "Hey, Dad wants you." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Dad wants me? Dad's not
Right.
even awake, right?" I mean, he's like out, and he has his finger and he's motioning me to come to him, right? And so I came to him. My sister was on one side of him, I was on the other, and he took his last breath and he passed away.
Hmm.
Okay. And I looked at my watch, and it was exactly 19 minutes from the time I put that pin on him to when he passed. John
Hmm.
3:16, 3 plus 16,
Yeah.
19.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's the old God moment, right?
Right.
Okay, so everybody has their old God moments. I'm like, okay, what is all this? So, a month passes or so, and I'm driving to Eagle Point to run a fishing trip. It's early in the morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving through the plants in Texas City,
Hmm.
and you know how all the flares are going off and everything. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Lord, and I'm just talking to myself. I'm like, look, I've had a good life, right? I've never wanted for anything. I could do anything I've ever wanted to do, and I did, right? Whatever I wanted, I got. That was me. That's the person I was. I'm nobody's going to tell me no, right? And so, but then I'm like, but I'm missing something. There's something more to life. And so I was just saying this to myself that I need to call Doug, who's the pastor that fished with me for 25 years.
Okay.
And so my plan was to call him when I finished fishing, right? And about that time, as soon as I said I need to talk to Doug and I'm going to call him after I finish fishing, my phone rings at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's Doug.
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Hey," and I'm like, "What's wrong?" Because I mean, my first instinct was something. He lives up in Bernhardt, Texas, which is outside of Bernie, right?
Okay.
And my first intention was, okay, something is like, what's wrong? What's wrong with Elaine, his wife? Anything wrong with his daughter, Isabella? What's going on? Like, why are you calling me at 4 o'clock in the morning? And he goes, "Dude," he goes, "I woke up and God told me to call you."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Okay." And then I was just telling him, like, "Hey, I was going to call you in the afternoon." And he's like, "What's up?" And so I was telling him some stuff, and he goes, "In 3 days, I'm going to come to Houston. You have a chance to see me." And I said, "Dude, I'm not doing anything." I said, and he goes, "Well, let's go fishing." And so we went fishing that day. And at the end of the fishing trip, right there at Eagle Point Fishing Camp in St. Leon, up on the hill overlooking the bay, I gave my life to Christ.
Hmm. Very
And
good.
so since then, um, man, God's just revealed himself over and over and over again.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
very first instance was about a month later. When you give your life to Christ and get born again, the first thing you're like in a honeymoon, dude. Like everybody's
Right.
perfect, everybody's great. You're like smiling at anybody. Some guy cuts you off in traffic, and you're stopping to try to pull him over and buy him lunch. But anyway, so about a month into it, I'm at Eagle Point, and it's a dreary day. And I came in from fishing, and I'm wet, and I'm by myself, but I have keys to the marina, right? And I'm like, oh man, I'm just wet, and I just want to go home. And this guy pulls up. These two vans pull up, and they jump out. And this gentleman comes walking in, and he's like, "Hey, can I ask you something?" I said, "Yeah, what?" And he's like, "I want to do some filming on the back dock." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, whatever you want to do. I'm going home."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'm only going to be here about 10 minutes." And I said, "Okay, that's fine, but I'm going to go home." And so he's like, "No, that's fine, that's fine." And so I'm cleaning up, putting my rods up inside the building, getting ready to walk out, and he comes walking back in. And this guy's big, right? Big old cowboy type guy wearing a cowboy hat. And he's like, sits down, and he's like, "You got a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I really want to go home."
Right.
And he goes, "No, have a seat for a minute." And I sit down, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Michael Kruger, and God sent me in here to share my testimony with you." He goes, "You just got saved, huh?" And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Whoa."
How did he
And
know
I'm
that?
like, "Okay, now I'm kind of intrigued." Okay.
Yeah.
So he shared his testimony, who he was. He was a Hollywood actor from Hollywood, moved back to Texas, did TV series. He was starred in Dallas, did secular movies in Hollywood, then got out of Hollywood and came back to his ranch outside of Lubbock, Texas, and he was and he just got away from the movies, but he got a deal to produce the Sons of Thunder, a little mini series for PureFlix TV.
Hmm.
And so that's what he was filming. And he was talking about Randall Reeder, the main actor who's from LaPorte, who was a professional wrestler. And it just went on and on and on, right? And I'm like, okay. And so I'm thinking he walks out, and we leave about 30 minutes later. And, I get home, and on the whole way home, I'm like, this guy is full of it, right? But I get home, and I walk into the house, and the first thing I do is get on the computer and Google his name, and boom, he pops up. Everything about him, everything that he said was true, right? I mean, it's just like, whoa, Lord, that's really weird. And then we became friends, and we're still friends. And then Randall Reeder and I became friends, and Randall came back to Texas after leaving Hollywood and the professional wrestling scene and all that. And he started a ministry called Save Savage Ministries.
As far as writing, your writing responsibilities to different publications, I know for one local publication you write daily, and then you talked about some you'd write weekly, and then I guess in different intervals for other locations. How do you come up with content every day? Where do you get your
Holy
inspiration?
Spirit, Holy Spirit.
Okay.
I got a good contact list of people with what I do, because I write an outdoor column, fishing or whether it be hunting, and and so I've got a good resource of people that I use. And sometimes, seriously, I depend on the Holy Spirit. Like if the weather turns bad for 4 or 5 days, you don't get those fishing reports in. You don't get. So I just got to come up with like, okay, Lord, I need a subject, and usually most of the time, 100% of the time, He provides it,
Hmm.
and it just pops up, and I just write it. So
So
I really enjoy the writing. Go ahead.
okay, I was going to ask you, how long would you say you put into each one of your columns? Does it vary, or is it kind of you've done
It
this a long time
varies.
now? Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Um, it varies. It, you know, e- Typically right now I probably have it narrowed down to 45 minutes, maybe
Oh.
just going through, checking my typos and all that. I used to write it, and now some columns I do. I write it before I type it, right? Before I put it on the computer. And
Hmm.
and it may take me a little bit longer than that. I mean, I don't
Right.
know. Because I'm always writing. Like my mind's always writing, right? I'm always thinking of content. I wake up early, like I think you were up early this morning too.
Hmm.
So as soon as I get up and get my first cup of coffee, my thought process is always writing. and I'll start writing down notes or like, that's it. That's what I want to write about. And then I just go with it, you know?
Okay. Have
So
you,
whenever it hits me,
yeah. So have you ran into anyone out there in the public that says, "Hey, you're David, the guy. I've read your stories, or you're the guide fisherman." Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
I
really?
have. Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
Okay.
It's like, yeah, you talk to somebody and they go, I know that name. And they're like, how do I know your name? And I'm like, you read the newspaper? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, you're that guy or something, you know? It's kind of weird. Oh, you read this? Yeah. Bob, I read your, or they just come up and they said, hey, I read your columns, right?
Mm,
And I'm like, really? I said, that's interesting. You know, I don't belong. Like, there's a Texas Outdoor Writer Association, and I
right.
haven't like threw my name out there to belong to the organization yet. I just haven't, you know. I mean, and I don't know if I need if I and I'm struggling. Do I need it? Do I really want it? Do I want the record? If I could get some recognition, do I want the recognition? I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or do I need the recognition?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
I'll just
sometimes
let.
I don't know
Go
if
ahead.
I don't know if you've gone through this or not, David, but I know sometimes when whether you're a writer or a podcaster, or you do something where you're in the community quite a bit, sometimes you just want to kind of step away and have that kind of part of you um, take a break from the public a little bit. I find myself
Yeah.
kind of getting that way, you know.
Yeah, well, you're out there probably a little more than me with what you're all doing. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I do. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. Sometimes you just don't. Yeah, because you don't ever know. Like, oh man, are they going to say that my writing
Yeah.
sucks, or
Yeah.
or something bad, right? Or you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, like, okay, I'm sorry, forgive me. But I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's kind of different. I don't even think about it because they'll say something, and I'm like, yeah, all right,
Hmm.
oh, we really enjoy your column. Well, thank you. I mean, it makes you feel good, right?
Right.
Or how I mean, writers a little like every now and then I'll write something, and even to myself, I'm like, man, that's really good.
Right. You impress
you,
yourself. Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
impress yourself. You're like, this is good. Like,
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes when I get done writing my stories, I've spent so much time looking at it and researching it, I don't want to look at it anymore. And so
oh, I know.
once it gets published, it's cool, okay. And then people will say, "Hey, I like that story," or maybe, "Well, maybe you should have put this or that in there," and they want to talk about the story. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I've already invested too much, enough time in this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Are
Right.
you kind of like that?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I have everything I've ever written in notebooks. And so and I keep them. But do I go back? I mean, I may go back every now and then and just look at it and use it for reference. But yes, a lot of it I don't even look at. Like I used to look like when I first started and they get in print. Like I thought that was, hey, look, I'm in print.
Oh, it's
What the
awesome.
heck, Lord?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of different now. I don't even look at them. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like I don't even. Every now and then I'll look just to see like
Mhm.
how it looked in the on the
Mhm.
layout on the in the paper. But other than that, I just don't even. Yeah, I just try not to even look at it.
Yeah. I like to get copies, and if I interview someone, I will always give them a copy. I'll meet up with them or whatever, give them a
I do too.
copy.
Yeah,
Some people like to see that, and I do. I still like to see things in print. I'm older, you're older. We still can remember when, it wasn't real unless it was in print. I still like that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have books. Like
Yeah.
I don't want. I've never read a book online like with the Amazon books or whatever. I like to hold the book, look at the book, feel the pages.
Hmm.
I like to pick up print, you know, and it's dying. I mean that those days.
Unfortunately.
Go to the magazine rack
I
in a
know.
grocery store.
Yeah.
It's like what's really weird. This is just me. Like I mean, I'll go and look just to see what outdoor fishing related magazines are out there. And it used to be, man, you go in there and it was boating and fishing
Mhm.
magazines, and now you go in there and you know what the number one magazine is the most. Have you looked at a magazine rack lately in a
It's
grocery
been a
store?
little while. It's been a little
It's
while.
all handguns, guns and handguns.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, like, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I mean, it's all about guns and handguns.
Hmm.
Magazine after magazine after magazine. I mean, a bullet looks like a bullet to me.
David, what do you enjoy about besides being around people when you're out guiding? You talked a little bit about nature, some of the places you like to fish. Is there any one thing that keeps you fishing after all these years and keep going out there and do it and again and again?
It's meeting the people.
The people,
It's
okay.
just, yeah, it's all about the people. I really enjoy just getting to know the people on the boat, and
Mm.
the people you take. Like I got a guy that I'm taking, and he's a 2-star general with the Army,
Oh wow.
right? Been in the Army 32 years. He's a 2-star general. So I'm like, what, dude? That's pretty cool. Army for 32 years. I was like, oh, wow, you must be a colonel. And he's like, no, I'm a 2-star general.
Okay, so have you had any experiences when you're out guiding people and you talked earlier about if people would go out with you, they're going to hear a little bit about Jesus. Have you had any chance to really evangelize to people?
Yeah, I mean, I have, but and people are receptive, and some people, man, you start, and it's really neat how many people are actually believers,
Hmm.
but they just don't know how to say it right, or
Hmm.
they're afraid to say it. And then you get people that you can just tell when God tells you to shut up, you just shut up, right?
Hmm.
Because He'll tell you, hey, that's it, and then you can't do it anymore. You can still put some stuff in there, but you can just tell that, hey, just be quiet.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's good. It's good, and I'm always willing to share my story. So I'm not,
Hmm.
and it's not like it's his story, right? It's his history,
Right.
his story. So if you just think about it, it's just, it's God's story through me. You know, he already
Hmm.
knew how it was going to turn out, or what I was going to do. So I mean, nothing was a surprise. So I share my testimony with a lot of people. So,
Okay.
and a lot of people knew me before, so they knew who I was before, and who I am now. So
And David, would you say the people who knew you before, though you mentioned earlier, some people may say, "Hey, I knew who you were, David. You can't be a new creation." But do some people
uh,
say, "Wow, David, that's inspiring. Gee, maybe there's hope for me. Can we talk about this?" Have you had
yes,
that
they do.
experience?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
you have it every now and then, or some people just go, well, I'm just, man, I'm just, I need to get myself, clean, and I'm like, oh no, you don't. I said, God's not waiting for you to get clean.
Hmm.
I said, God's just waiting for you. I said, all you got to do is just I said, let you, it doesn't matter if you're still drinking every night, or if you're smoking that joint, or if you're doing this and doing that. That God's not telling you to be clean before you're saved. He says,
Hmm.
come to me, and then he'll transform your life.
Hmm.
So, and then it just happens.
Okay. All right.
It's not anything I did to transform my life. I mean, if you would have known me before, every other word was, not a derogatory word. Like I
Hmm.
used, I used the F word. Like, is it verb, adverb, pronoun, adjective, preposition? I mean, if it was in a 7-letter sentence, it would come out 5 times, right?
Mm.
And I did. I mean, it was just, dude. I mean, my language was atrocious. And then once I got saved, I mean, I didn't even think about it, but it just went away. Like that was the first thing that I just even like. I mean, I just kind of noticed one day, and I'm like, wow, God, you just like, I mean, I mean, when I get, I mean, everybody goes, oh, God, take it, God took it from me. Well, God can't take anything from you, because then that would make him a thief, and he
Hmm.
can't take stuff from you.
Hmm.
It's just that you just give it to him, and before you know it, it's gone, you know.
David, would you
And
say the things that you cut out of your life, like maybe substances or bad words or something like that, would you say that came out of a sense of obligation? Now that you're a Christian, hey, I have an obligation to do these things, or no?
no, I don't think so. I
Hmm.
mean, for me, no, it wasn't an obligation at all. It was just, I mean, he just, it just started going away. The desire just started going away.
Hmm.
It all started just to, look, when I got saved, I was already off the drugs. Like that
Okay.
already quit, right?
Okay.
I already stopped all.
Hmm.
So, but except for the drinking and then the cussing, and then that was the last of it, and why I got off the drugs and everything, I don't even know if there was a reason other than I just did, right? I mean, I knew, look, you know, they, what's funny is it brought back up memories, especially like Jimmy Buffett just passed away, right?
Sure.
And Jimmy Buffett wrote that song, Pirate Turns 40. And in
Mm.
that song, he talks about like, smuggling a bunch of grass and then, having enough money to buy Miami, but he spent it all. And that, man, I lived that life. I got it, dude. That's who I was, right? And and so it's kind of interesting that you think about it, and then I just don't even think about it anymore. All that's just past.
Hmm.
So it's just it's nothing consciously I think I did. It's just I did it, and I didn't know why. But at that point, like I said, I knew of Jesus, but I didn't know Jesus.
Hmm.
And now it's a relationship deal, right? I mean,
Okay. Okay.
does that
Now
make sense?
it does. Now let's talk about your profile picture on Facebook. I'm assuming that's you being baptized there.
It is.
So set that
Yep.
story up. Tell people the backstory of that picture.
So I got saved by with Doug, and that's Doug doing the
Okay.
baptism with me. And then a year later, I got baptized in the river. What river is the Blanco River? The river um, in the hill country. What's the big river?
The
Help me
Guadalupe?
here. Where everybody goes tubing down.
Oh, the Guadalupe or the Frio?
Guadalupe. That was
Okay, the
in the
Guadalupe.
Guadalupe,
Okay.
outside of Bernhardt.
Okay.
Yeah, Guadalupe, and right there, kind of in Bernie. With Doug, and it was at their church, Fair Hope Baptist. Fair Hope, Fair. I've got it in my drawer. I can't remember the name of the church. It was a Baptist church that he was an associate pastor,
Okay.
and then the pastor there, Eric, is a police chief for San Antonio, chief of
Okay.
police for San Antonio. So he's the full time pastor. But anyway, make a long story short, I did the baptism with them, and that was Doug baptizing me in 2019 of August. And leading up to that, there's a story leading up to this. So, look, I'll show you. Everybody knows what this is, right?
Oh, the armadillo.
Elwadella. So, uh, the I was baptized on a Sunday, and that Monday before the prior Monday, I was leaving to go fishing, and I ran over an armadillo in the yard,
Mm.
and on the road, not on the yard, but on 3005. And I killed this armadillo, and I felt so bad about this armadillo being dead. Well, Friday I ran a fishing trip. I put together a 20 boat trip for an engineering company every year, and same group. His daughter, the head of the engineering company, his daughter fishes with me and her boyfriend and another guy, and so it's always the same three, right? And so we're running across the bay, and this is Friday before I get baptized on Sunday, and something catches my eye, and it's like 300 yards away from the boat, right? But I just got a glimpse of it, and I turn back around, and the girl looks at me and goes, "What are you doing, David?" And I'm like, "Man, I saw something." And she goes, "What you see? A fish?" And I said, "I don't know what it is. It could be a dead fish." I said, "But I want to go see what it is." And we pull up on it, and she's standing right next to me, and we both looked down, and I like looked at her, and I said, "I thought it was a possum." And she goes, "I did too." And she goes, "Is it alive?" And I said, "I don't know." And so I said, "Give me the net." So we get the net, and we scoop this creature up, and it's an armadillo
Oh, okay.
in the bay. Never seen one in the middle of the bay. No land around, nothing.
Hmm.
And I scooped this armadillo up, and we put it in the boat, and it just was like laying there, and all of a sudden it coughs, and this water comes out of its mouth and out of its nose, and the little guy's still alive.
Wow.
And so she's like, "What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "Well, we're not going to throw it back in the water." I said,
Right.
"We're just going to keep it in the boat." And she goes, "You think it's going to live?" And I said, "God willing, it will live." And so I'm telling her the story about me running over the armadillo on a Friday, and then I find this one on Monday. Then I find this one on Friday, and I'm getting baptized on Sunday. And she goes, "God put that armadillo there so you can redeem it
Hmm.
for the redemption." And I'm like, "Look, I've been on this water 30 years, and I've never seen an armadillo." like
Yeah, I haven't
in the
either.
middle of the bay. Yeah, like it was crazy. And so we got pictures of it, and we pull in the marina, and then all and she took a picture of it right away, and she goes, "Look what we caught." And people were like, all the other boats were like, "There's no way." And so when we pull into my slip at Eagle Point, there's 70 people around my boat, right? This little armadillo jumped up and looked, and he's like, "Dude, I am out of here." And so she put it in the net, and she carried it up to the field and let it go, right?
Oh,
And the little guy ran off, man. It
he
was
got
just
saved
like,
that day. Yeah.
yeah, it was like it was a chance, like, and so. But anyway, the day I got baptized was something special that I'll always remember.
Mhm.
So, in
Mhm.
fact, I fished with him he came, him and his wife came for a little mini vacation to see us. They were here for the past 2 days. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it was good. So that's funny that you even brought that up.
Yeah.
But that is me. That's me getting baptized, right?
Okay. And so, David, where do you and your wife go to church now?
Church of the Living God,
Okay. Is that in
7 Mile
Galveston?
Road in
Where's
Galveston.
Oh, in Galveston. Okay.
Yep, 7 Mile Road.
Okay. David, I guess the last couple of questions I've got for you is one for someone who may be out there and maybe they've had struggles with their life, like many people do, most people do, and something's tugging on their heartstrings, and maybe they feel like there's something more to what maybe they've heard throughout their life, but they're not sure. Maybe they think they've screwed up too much, or they just,
There
I
you
wouldn't be a good Christian. What would you say to them?
how to be a good Christian. That's not even that's like you can't be good enough. None of us are good enough.
Right.
So why do bad things happen to good people, right? I mean, everybody wants to know, hey, if there's a God, why do bad things happen to good people? You know why? Because none of us are good enough.
Right.
Just none of us are. So if you're out there struggling and you're wondering yourself, like, or you're just wondering, like I did, like there's got to be more to life, and
Hmm.
there is. There is, and that's inside that Holy Bible. Um, that book is on the New York Times bestseller list for over 2,000 years, right? It's
Okay.
the number one sold book. And I tell
That's
people
true.
this, and and if you're struggling, get with somebody. There's no condemnation. If you're waiting to thinking that you're just too far gone, that God will never love you, absolutely not. That's just wrong. Or if somebody tells you that you're just a sinner and you're just going to go to hell. Number one is God sends nobody to hell. It's a personal choice. It's a choice that you make. Either you believe or you don't believe. It's that simple. And there's nothing, there's no works that have to be done. If somebody says, "Oh, well, you got to go do this but in order to be saved," nowhere in the Bible does it say that. All you have to do is believe. You believe in Jesus that rose on the third day from the grave, and that he died for your sins, and that having faith in him will give you eternal life. There you go. That's all you have to do. It's that simple. It's nothing hard. And look, and a lot of people, like, you try, like, you have a problem in your life, right? And this is funny how people do this. They have a problem in their life and they go, "Well, I'm going to fix it. Well, I'm going to get so and so to help me fix it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." And eventually they go, "Well, I'm just going to pray about it." Well, pray about it first.
Hmm.
Give it to God. I mean, that's what he tells you to do. And if you're struggling in your faith and you're walked away a little bit, man, and you pick up the Bible, read the red letters. Read what Jesus says,
Hmm.
right? And so the word Christian is so, man, you use the word Christian. Like, do I identify myself as a Christian? I mean, I'm not afraid to tell people, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I'm also not afraid to tell people that I'm a follower of Jesus. I
Hmm.
mean, I try to follow him, I stumble along behind him. But I mean, the truth is, the word Christian was only used like 2 times in the Bible, but the word the way,
Hmm.
the followers were called the way.
Right.
That was used a
Right.
lot more than 2 times in the Bible.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's it. It's just all about Jesus. And he can and will change your life.
Right. Favorite verse? What about a favorite Bible verse, David? Anything
John
that
3 6, John
John
3:16.
3:16? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a bunch of them in there, but John 3:16.
Okay.
And then actually, 3:16, 3:17. I didn't come to condemn, but to save. So,
And if people have the fishing bug, maybe they haven't been in a long time, or maybe they've been recently, and they want to go out there on the water with you, how can they get a hold of you?
they can go to, man. You can look me up on Facebook. Just under my name, David C. Dillman, or you can go to my website, GalvestonBayCharterFishing.com, or you can um, go to a Facebook page called Spectacular Trout Adventures, which is what my guide service used to be called. I still have that Facebook page, but it'll send you a link to GalvestonBayCharterFishing.com. Or you can just, the easiest thing, Google my name, but avoid the ones that come up on the most wanted list. That's not me.
Yeah. Well, very good, David. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights and some of your past experiences. Very valuable.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time that you gave me to do this. I'm humbled by it very much.
No problem. David, good to have you on. And we're got to meet up in person and
We do. We
wet a
got to do
line and get
lunch.
some lunch or something.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And you keep doing what you're doing, man. You got the writing gig, right? All the NASA stuff. That's really good. That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
It's enjoyable. Well, David,
Yeah.
take care.
Okay. Thank you.